This weekend we are back on the bike racing the Dirty Reiver. Now this is a gravel event based up in Northumberland, or more specifically Kielder Forest, so it should be really nice. There's 3 different races. There's a 200 kilometre, a 135 kilometre and a 65 kilometre race. Now I've gone with the 135 kilometre race purely because I don't think I have the minerals nor the cycling legs at the minute to get around the 200 kilometre race on gravel. I spent the last 4 months prioritising running over cycling because I was training for a marathon, but now we are back on a 50-50 even playing field, but unfortunately I've not had much time to train properly for this event. And on top of the lack of training I've been doing, all the training I have been doing has been on road because I've become a full-time road cycling merchant at this point. Main reason for that is because my road bike is a hell of a lot nicer than my gravel bike. Now it feels like a step down to be riding the gravel bike, which is unfortunate. And as such it needs a bit of TLC because it has been sat collecting dust for the last 3 months. It has just had a new head tube. I think we need a new bottom bracket and I need to replace the brake pads because there is melt left on them, and I might need to redo the tubeless sealant because they have been set up this way for 6 months now. I also seem to have misplaced the pedals, so I might just be riding this gravel event with road pedals and road cleats. So as you can probably tell by now, I'm not feeling particularly well prepared for this event, and I think it's going to end up being one of the most grueling days I've ever had on the bike, but I'm here for it. We'll see how we get on. I'm just going to do my best. But no doubt whatever happens, it's going to be fun. Assuming I don't fall off the bike due to my lack of gravel handling skills as of late. Oh, easy does it. But aside from that, it should be good. So the POA from here, get the bike fixed, get the bags packed, get to Kielder, sleep, and then on the Saturday morning we race. I use the term race very loosely because this is going to end up being more of a just get round kind of job. Oh Lord, it's forecast for rain on the Thursday, Friday and the Saturday when we're going to be racing. It's going to be like a swamp.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Joining me en route to my accommodation for the weekend now, I am having to stay about 30-minute drive away from Kielder and the main event village just because I got this ticket pretty last minute, and by the time I'd got it, the campsite, the main event village campsite where the majority of people will be staying, is sold out. I'm not too fussed. I'm going to have an early start tomorrow morning for the race, but hopefully I'll get a decent night's sleep because I'm staying in this like static caravan thing. Well, I just arrived at Kielder at the mooch that my back is starting to leave the chat already. It's aching, my lower back, man. I'm going to go and register, pick up the stuff and see what the village is about. So I'm just back from the event village and I've checked into the static caravan that I'm staying in for the weekend. Look at this place. We've got ourselves a lovely little static caravan. This will do the job. Massive. It's got all the amenities. Microwave for my breakfast tomorrow. Hobs if needs be. Never ending. Bathroom, shower. And a bedroom. You know what, I'll take that all day long. That is better than camping in a muddy field and getting no sleep. Just a shame it's so far away from the actual event village, but what can you do? The event village is nice, loads of different things going on there, food, catering and stuff like that, and then all the different brand stands. Managed to bump into Amy Cycling Adventures and Kyle. Amy's riding with Pinarella now. She showed me a bike. It is delightful, and they're doing the 200 tomorrow, so I was hoping to ride with people that I know, but unfortunately I think I'm only going to be able to do the 65k tomorrow because I need to get back to Manchester to catch a train down to London for 6 o'clock, and it's a bit of a mooch. It's about a 3-hour drive, so I need to be done and out of the event by 3 o'clock absolute latest, so I don't know if I've got the legs to get around the 1:30 in time, unfortunately. Bit of a shame, but I've had an opportunity come up with a brand down at the London Marathon event that I can't really turn down, unfortunately, so is what it is. I'm still going to have a good time out there. 65k and 1300 metres of elevation, so it isn't going to be as much of a grueler as the 135 or the 200, but it's still going to be a decent ride out, and I'm hoping to just enjoy myself out there, see what we can do. It has been a minute since I've done a gravel event, which leads me on nicely to the bike and the setup. So I'm on my gravel bike, which if you aren't aware is the Specialized Diverge Comp E5, full aluminium setup, aluminium frame, carbon forks, aluminium wheels, and I'm running the Pirelli Cinturato Gravel M's 45mm proper fit. I think from what I've been told, this might be a little bit overkill for the gravel at Reiver, because I'm told it's quite like compact and actually fairly nice, not massive big loose rocks like it was at Raiders Gravel last year, because that stuff was terrifying to ride on. I'll be running them tomorrow at about 30 psi. I found that's a very nice setup for me. It's comfortable and gives me enough grip. I'm not going to be racing for the podium, so I just want to be comfortable and stay on the bike as much as I can do, basically. I don't want to be coming off around the corners and that. Oh, fuck. They are set up tubeless as well, which should help me in terms of punctures and that. Hopefully we have no issues. Group set is SRAM Apex 1. It's full mechanical setup. It's alright, you know, it does a job. It does have a tendency to come off. Sometimes the chain does when I'm on the rough stuff, but otherwise it's generally alright on the gravel, and it'll get me around hopefully without any mechanicals tomorrow. Bastard chains come off again. Using the Garmin Edge 840 Solar to navigate me around and track my speed and my heart rate and all that sort of stuff with this chest strap. Nutrition wise, I shouldn't need that much now. I'm only doing the 65k, but I'm gonna fill 2 bottles up with the super carbs. That's 80 grams of carbs each, blackcurrant flavour, elite stuff. And I'm gonna have 2 of the chews and the gel just in case. There is a 20% discount code off all the OT nutrition stuff in the description below if you are interested. But yeah, that is pretty much the setup. I am now gonna eat some food and relax for the evening, because we have got an early alarm. I think we're gonna have to get up about 5 o'clock because we need to get to the start line for 7:30, I think it is. Morning. It is currently 6 AM on race day. It is absolutely Baltic. My car is frozen over. I think it must be 0 degrees, and I'm not prepared for 0 degrees. I've bought bib shorts, a top, and then a coat, a waterproof coat. Hopefully it'll be warm enough if I'm going just full gas anyway in the race. So double parts on the porridge, taste of cardboard. Gonna shovel that down and then make my way over to Kielder. Clear blue skies, but man, God, it's so cold. Heating's not come on in this gaff either. Tough start. Got to Kielder, it was a pretty nice drive. There was no traffic because it was at the crack of dawn. Then when we got there was quite a substantial queue of cars trying to get into the venue for the event, of course. Now, it didn't affect me too bad. I was queuing for a little bit, but I managed to park up fine. They did have to delay the start of the event by 15 minutes. It was meant to start at 7:45, but it ended up going out just after 8 o'clock. But once everyone made it in, we were underway. There was a 3k neutralised section, which basically is just 3 kilometres to get into your rhythm before the race actually starts. And man, it was so congested. It was really congested. 1600, 1700 riders all riding along these really narrow single track paths. Just meant it was really stop and start. Couldn't get any flow going, couldn't overtake because it was too crowded. That was my only gripe with the event. I just felt like they really needed some kind of staggered start. Problem is, it isn't positioned as a race because, like I said, they want it to be inclusive and not intimidating to new gravel riders, which I totally appreciate. But for me on the day, because I could only do the 65, I wanted to give it a full gas effort and see what we did. That kind of went out the window in the first 30-45 minutes because I kept getting stuck behind people. But there was no way I was going to start at the front of the pack with the hardcore gravel heads who were averaging about 30 kilometres an hour, because I'd just be getting in their way. But eventually, after an hour or so, it did start to break up a little bit, and the gravel paths, like the route was beautiful. It was really nice through like the forest trails. Kind of reminded me of Dumfries and Galloway Forest. It's a very similar makeup really, except the terrain I found wasn't quite as brutal. There's a lot more areas of like nice compact gravel that you could get a bit of speed up on rather than super technical loose rock stuff. But with that said, the terrain was still pretty rough and it was chewing people up and spitting them out. Even in the first 10-20 minutes I saw so many punctures and mechanicals. I don't know what setups people were running, etc. But God, it was just chewing through the tyres. So I was feeling super fresh. I'd literally tapered for the event, thinking I was going to be doing the 130k until a few days beforehand. So off the bat, my legs were just feeling mint. So far without getting muddy. But to begin with, we were so cold. It was like a Baltic winter's morning. You know when your hands are so cold they start stinging.
Oh, is that the danger of the sun coming up?
Now that time, I'm only just starting to feel my hands again.
It was one of them ones, and I just could not warm up for the first like half an hour when we were sort of stuck in that stop-start mode. Thankfully, there was quite a lot of hills. Over the 65k, there was 1300 plus meters of elevation, which is a lot of climbing in a relatively short distance, so I did warm up eventually. And after about 30 kilometers, the people doing the 65k route veered off and went a different direction to the other people who were doing the longer routes, and that is when it started to get excellent. And I say that just because the trails were super quiet, the congestion had stopped, and it was just like me, the trails, and a few other people as well.
About 30k in, I'm halfway around my route now, more or less. I've just broke away from the main groups that are doing the 130 and the 200. Beautiful route right through the forest, proper like gravel trails. It is really nice. I don't think there'll be that many people doing the 65, so I'll put my foot down for a bit and see how we go. Right, just stopped at the OTE feed station, top up my drinks and a gel. Now I'm en route with the last 20k. My bike sounds like absolute shite. The terrain's been pretty dodgy the last 10k or so. Oh, bollocks.
Yeah, as you can tell, I was having a pretty rough time out there trying to film.
We're doing a bit of cyclocross here. Starting to understand why it's called Dirty Reiver now.
We're going strong at this point. I was enjoying it big time. I did have to pull over and put my chain back on a couple of times. I think it happened about 4 times.
Bastard chain's come off again.
Throughout the 65k. Is what it is. Not that big a deal, it's just a bit inconvenient. I do have a chain stay on the 1x setup as well, but sometimes when I'm changing gear on the rough stuff, chain just doesn't land on the cassette right and it just falls off somehow. Don't know if there's any way to fix that. I have taken it to a bike shop and they said they don't need to shorten the chain or anything like that. Maybe it's just what you get with that calibre of bike. But other than that minor mechanical inconvenience, I actually had no issues the whole way round. No punctures or anything like that. Nothing too severe beyond the chain dropping a couple of times. Had a few sketchy moments on a couple of the descents. Now there was one in particular where I was certain I was coming off. I thought it was going to be my first proper crash. I was going to end up in a ditch. I was on my own at this point and it was a pretty quick descent, and it turned out to be quite a windy one as well. You sort of come down it at speed and then you veer off to the left a little bit, and out of nowhere it felt like it was a massive right turn and I was off camber coming in hot. And there's just nothing I could do, so I sort of slammed the brakes on a little bit and just went skidding off piste a little.
Oh, fuck. Easy does it. Jesus. That was going to come flying off the side then.
But fortunately managed to stay on the bike and stop in time, because I thought that was going to be the end of me. And I spoke to a few people on Instagram about that corner, and that seemed to be causing a few people a bit of grief. It just sort of came out of nowhere. So thankfully we made it round in one piece and we got through the finish line in 3 hours and 3 minutes. Total distance was 67.8 kilometres with 1334 metres of elevation. So a bit of climbing in that, average speed 22.2 kilometres an hour. Not too quick, but because of the hills and the terrain, I did still feel it in my legs by the end of it. I reckon I'd have got round the 130, but the 200 would have been a push. That's a long way to go on tough terrain. And then once I'd finished, I was in a bit of a rush. I didn't stick around for too long. I picked up a coffee and some chips, and then I went and shot home in the car basically, because we had a 3-hour drive back down to Manchester where I had a train to catch down to London. So yeah, couldn't stick around too much afterwards. I didn't get to see anyone else that I knew because they were all doing the longer routes as well. Bit of a shame, but like I said, needs must. So yeah, in summary, I had a good time out there. It's a beautiful part of the world to do gravel riding, and if you are after an adventure / a challenge, I would recommend the event. I just hope next time they implement a staggered start so it isn't so congested. But anyway, appreciate you watching if you watched this far, and I will see you in the next one.